With Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, entitled Open Public Meeting Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as specified in the Act. Proper notice of this public meeting was provided in the notice. Said notice was posted at the entrance of the Board of Education offices, mailed to the Nutley Sun, the Star Ledger, the North Jersey Herald News, the Nutley Journal, mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk, advertised in the Nutley Sun, posted on the district website. This is an official meeting. Flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could remain standing for a couple minutes, please, for a moment of silence for Angela Luzzi, a bus aide who was with us for quite a while, and obviously Larry Costa. Thank you very much. These are two people we're surely going to miss. Roll call, Mr. Kuzo.
Mr. Carnicelli?
Here.
Mrs. Stanchek-Morton? Here. Mr. Ferrera?
Here.
Mr. Klein? Mr. Riley? Ms. Russo? Here. Mr. Scalera?
Here.
Mr. Spezzano? Mr. Kaczynski?
Here. I need approval of the minutes. Motion. Second.
Second.
Any correspondence? None?
None.
We are going to be going into closed sessions, which everybody knows, but I was expecting Commissioner Tucci and the mayor to come here to give a short presentation. I asked them to be here at 6:30. I don't know what to do except maybe wait a couple minutes to see if they show up before we go into closed session, because we're going to be quite a while in closed session.
Mr. President,
Yes,
let's let the superintendent do his report. That'll surely give us time.
That's a good idea, Mr. Squire. Big bucks. That's where you can take the big bucks.
I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski and Mr. Scalera. I honestly cannot believe that this is the last day of year 3. We met with the administrators this morning for our final administrative roundtable, and we used today as a means of getting a jump on next year. We talked about goal setting, review of data, as well as our strategic plan and how year 3 is going to be a year of implementation, whereas the first 2 years have been years of research and planning. We are now ready to really put our feet in the road and get moving forward. So if we have been moving already, look out for year 3. I want to thank everyone, certainly the board, Ms. Egan and her administration and staff, and Mr. Williams and his administration and staff for the graduation ceremonies. I want to thank all of our student volunteers, building and grounds folks, all of our tech folk. Both graduations went off seamlessly. I think everyone involved had wonderful experiences. We do have the weather gods to thank a little bit. But just attending those ceremonies and being able to have them both out in the oval for the first time since I've been here, signs that things are looking up and we're improving. As far as special education, we officially closed the 13-14 school year. I want to thank Mrs. Joel Marino, Mrs. Despoto, there you go, and the entire department staff for all that work. We completed the summer schedule, which was a huge undertaking, as well as have submitted the state end-of-year report and our IDEA grant. We're waiting for feedback on that, but those are in under our appropriate deadlines, and we're looking forward in that department. We have an AED update. Ms. Dickerson across the street conducted CPR training throughout the week for the team members, 31 of which were identified by the building principals. The number does not include nurses or coaches who are also on the AED teams and are already certified in CPR. All this is in compliance with the new code that is out. We received all of our new, in fact, Dr. Lonnie and Ms. James for making this happen so expeditiously. But all of our new equipment is in, being installed. Units that were removed from the buildings will be returned for credit. Dr. Lonnie is completing the AED plan template for the nurses, who then create specific building plans from that template. And we're planning our first reading of the AED policy and regulation in July, so that the board can have its first reading on the 28th. As I mentioned before, IDA and NCLB grants, thank you, Dr. Lonnie and Ms. James. We're both submitted to state this month. State personnel now review them, and we get feedback from them as to whether our information is complete or if additional information is needed before final approval. Middle school band competition, I want to congratulate Mr. McPartland and all the students, parents, teachers. Our students competed once again at Dorney Park in the middle school band competition held there. Our grade 7 band took first place. Our grade 8 band took first place, and our grade 8 band also won the Spirit Decor Award, which is given to the band that exhibits the most professionalism, etiquette on and off the stage, and overall excellence in musicianship. So congratulations to everyone in the program. For those people that were around, Mrs. Casilli and her rescheduled craft sports and course in reality took place on Tuesday, June 10th. Again, the program is a coordinated effort between the Board of Ed, our police and fire departments, as well as emergency rescue squad and the Department of Public Works, in conjunction with Nutley Municipal Alliance. Mrs. Casilli has been facilitating this again for a number of years. She does it every 2 to 3 years. The event simulates a drunk driving accident in which 2 cars have crashed. The response to the crisis is reviewed by the students as a reminder to never drink and drive. They actually use student actors from Nutley High School who are extricated from their cars, including the use of the jaws of life. They see sobriety tests and students being taken away in the actual vehicles. It really is a sight to see, and we get great feedback from the students. I want to thank Mrs. Carollo, Dr. Galani, Ms. Stanchek Martin, and Mr. Kaczynski, all of them were, oh, Mrs. Padilla. All were in attendance at the Anacross School parent meeting we had on last Thursday, the 26th. Mrs. Carollo and I met with the parents, we had a really good turnout. The parents filled the auditorium to discuss our plans based on population issues, the elimination of a section of second grade for the following year, which would increase class sizes to 24, 25, and then each of the 3 remaining sections. Again, not desirable, but not out of line with best practice. This allows us to keep all of our sections currently in the building. We spoke to the need to do that to preserve our music program and eliminate distractions when it comes to general instruction. We also talked about the fact that we'll be having a public presentation on all the information from our demographer and architects at the latest based on parents' feedback, the opening of school in September. All of this is in a move to just deal with the larger problem, the larger challenge of issues that we are shifting populations throughout the district. Just as an update again for the board as we do every week, our updated kindergarten information is in the most recent brief. 51 for Lincoln, 35 for Radcliffe, 42 for Spring Garden, 64 for Washington, and 73 for Yanacott. We still have 38 remaining pre-registrations and 11 affidavits. We are a little bit over just at where we normally expect to be at this time, which is good and bad in the sense that we know that some of our schools are late registrations. We get a big influx, especially for Washington and partly for Lincoln in August. So we're seeing numbers we hold steady. Health and physical education, thank you to the Board of Education. It was a great 2 days of project adventure training. Looking forward to bringing this into the district. Mrs. Powell and her staff worked hard from early morning until late in the afternoon, and they're ready. All the materials are here, and they're ready to start turning that, really changing the face of physical education and health for our kids K-12. Dr. White worked out the additional plans, including the Tier 4 teachers for language arts training. Mrs. Benavides has been here now multiple days. She's coming in again tomorrow. I'm going to sit down with Dr. Juan and myself and Mrs. Christian Teller to map out professional development and see how we move that model forward. And again, just congratulations to Mr. Missy and Mr. Sullivan and all the middle school staff for kind of really taking the middle school model idea and running it in the configuration piece. They have an extra training on Monday the 16th, and they're setting up summer sessions as well as an orientation session for incoming students to really hit the ground running before September when it comes to middle school model. And other than that, just to remind the board that there's a proposed date for the board retreat, which is Wednesday, July 30th. We're looking for feedback on your availability for that day. That's where our planning starts for the following year budget, as well as instruction, facilities, and the rest. So if you could email me back based on the information brief, that would be greatly appreciated. Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you. At this time, Mayor Petrarco, Commissioner Tucci.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the mayor and myself, I'd like to thank you for inviting us to this meeting. And our purpose for being here this evening is to present to you some options, all right, on how together we can fix the Oval. All right, we had a wonderful graduation ceremony. We beat the rain. It only started a little in the end. The speeches were short. It was a wonderful ceremony, and that's where events like that need to happen. It's the centerpiece of our town. All right, it's a jewel that we have here in Nutley. It's probably one of the best sites for any type of event, be it a sporting event, an academic event, a band event, not only in the state of New Jersey, but probably the entire country. As some of you may or may not know, we have some funding sources that are available to us as a township that the Board of Education is precluded from applying to. All right, and just very briefly, because we want to keep this brief, you know, you have a lot on your plate this evening. We can apply to Green Acres for funding, the Essex County Open Space Trust for funding, to the Essex County Community Development Program, Block Grant Program for funding, to the Historic Preservation Program for funding, which love the idea of improving the Oval. And this is a conversation that I had with our grant writer, Sue Scavone from Millennium Strategies, and it's something that they look forward to getting involved with. We also have, as a backup, township capital to bridge any gaps that we may have. We have private foundations that we can apply to, all right? And we also have major sports brands, Nike, Adidas, and the like, that may be interested in coming into Nutley and helping us make improvements and giving us dollars to do that, all right? So they get some advertising, which would benefit both of us. Now, the fear over the years has been, why would the Board of Education want to sign the Oval over to the township? There's one and only one reason for that ever to happen, so that these funding sources can become available to us. We have a fail-safe that we're here to propose this evening. We can enter into an agreement, all right, that your board attorney can draw up for a 99-year term with 99 more 99-year terms, all right? Nothing would change other than a paper transaction and our ability to bring in dollars that we need to improve the Oval. The board and the administration would still have care, custody, and control of the Oval, which means you would still program it, you would still schedule it. Nothing at all would change other than our ability to together make the improvements that we need. Our interest here this evening, all right, we're both here in our official positions as the mayor, as the commissioner, as a taxpayer, as a business owner in town, all right, and most importantly, my best title, as a grandfather. We have an investment in this township, all right? We need that oval to look the way it needs to look. We need to return it to its past glory. First impressions are lasting, all right? People coming into town probably don't understand the quality that we have in this town and what type of township that we have, all right? With those first impressions and those positive effects, this will draw in businesses. The mayor's going to touch a little bit upon some of the discussions we've had with Hoffman and Roche and some of the progress that's going on there. So things are looking very bright, but we need some sprucing up in some areas. And fortunate for us, the Oval is the centerpiece of our township. Unfortunate for us, it needs some work. We want to help you fix it. If amongst yourselves you can start the discussion, if you so choose, so that we can develop a mechanism whereby the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education works together and comes up with a plan to fix that Oval, so that not only our students, but our residents and our visitors to town can be proud of where they are and where they're visiting. I'll now turn it over to the mayor for some comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, thank you for inviting us tonight. I know that we've all had many talks about this subject. Being from Nutley a long, long time, you know, as you, Charlie, and seeing the Oval as our town jewel and our centerpiece, you know, to have it in the shape that it's in. I know having a business in town, Commissioner Tucci as well, I know a lot of people are stopping you. So, again, we're just here to extend that olive branch to say, hey, let's look at this. If the town could be of assistance, Commissioner Tucci has expressed to me many, many times that he's very interested in giving you guys a 99-year lease with 99-year options. So it's not something that the town wants to own. You know, but you know, I have kids in the school system as well still, and you know, when I'm at a baseball game or some kind of function, you know, I'm always being approached about, you know, especially how the stairs look and you know, the bleachers that touch on Franklin Avenue. So any way that we could do it together, or you know, there's no obligation, it's just a discussion. If you guys can get back to us and let us know how we can help, if we can help. As the Commissioner said, Hoffman Roach, I would start looking at the newspapers. We've been informed of some really, really good news, some really good prospects that are going to be forthcoming very shortly, that we're very, very excited about, the commissioners. It's not a done deal, but this week, I'm sure if you keep looking at the newspapers, there'll be some announcements from us as the Board of Commissioners and from Hoffman Roach as well. And I just think it's so important to keep that presence of, a spectacular downtown center, the whole being part of that. So, and I think that we're obligated as well, being taxpayers ourselves, but if there is grant money that we could apply for, and it won't be a cost to the Nutley residents at all, if we could apply for this grant money through the state, or is it the federal? However we can get that money, that it's not gonna be dollars coming out of our taxpayers here in town, I think that, it's very wise to look into that. So again, thank you all for, inviting us. If there's anything we could do to help you, any questions, we'll
We
be glad to
really
answer.
appreciate that, and we've already started the ball rolling in discussion-wise since our last meeting with the commissioners. And, there were some questions out there that you and I have heard over the years. We're getting some legal opinion on those questions and getting answers for them. So when we do, we'll set up another meeting. We're not trying to prolong it, we just want to make sure legally we've got ourselves covered from this end. But I'm excited. I think we need to work together with this. In my opinion, this board is working together with the commissioners more than anyone has done in quite a while. I'm excited about the town, the development is going on. I know Hop on the Roach is a negative side, but I think we're going to turn it into a positive side. And we're doing the same thing on the Board of Ed, so we need to concentrate on the oval. And again, we've started the discussion. We'll certainly continue, and this will not drop off. We will come up with some solutions between us to fix it as soon as we can. And board members are welcome to open up.
So, so first off, I'd like to go back to not recently, almost 10 years ago now, the Oval. But there is, and Commissioner, I've talked about this to Mr. Kaczynski before, we did a document then. That's how we got a lot of the money. Some of this is in print form, and we should pull back out. The lawyers drafted when we did it last time, and we brought in the one pot, which was a legislative one, and the other pot, which was a county block grant that you and Commissioner Evans remember at the time. And we even set up a committee to how the Oval was redone and all. I think we should pull that, if you have the township clerk look forward, I think that assists in this. And I'd also like to, without Mr. Kaczynski, the committee's formed, I'd like to be able to serve everything that we can, as I did in the past.
The mechanism that we put in place in the past worked very well for us. That's how we made the improvements that we made in the Oval at the time. That's how we turfed the Oval. But that was 10 years ago. The lifespan on turf is about 10 years. And Fred, Mr. Scalera, I'm sorry, at the time was Assemblyman Scalera, and was very instrumental in helping steer those dollars to Nutley. All right. The situation on the state level is a little different today than it was then. So we still have that mechanism as a framework to begin working from, but I think it's incumbent upon all of us, all right, to explore all the funding options that we have. I mean, we all have precious dollars that we're spending as wisely as we can. Yours in education, which is one of the most important areas that we need, because the way our schools go will determine the way our town goes. All right, and then you have the town appearance, you have the whole business-friendly approach, all right, and we have taxes that we're constantly dealing with. So any relief we can give our residents, and any dollars that we don't have to take out of our budgets, all right, our everyday budgets, and we can get free money to make the improvements that we need, I think we would be remiss if we didn't travel that path.
I think we agree, and the ball has already started, and like I said, we're going to continue with it. I appreciate your time tonight. I know you got a busy schedule. But I thought it was important that you present to us tonight, so then we as a board can start spending more time on this and come up with some solutions between all of us.
We totally agree, and I just want to say thank you for listening.
Thank you for the job you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what your thoughts are?
Yes, sir.
You want to do it? Whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss personnel. Be it further resolved that the results of this discussion will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of a subsequent meeting of the Board of Education, or when the reason for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exists.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Folks, we are going to be quite a while, so first of all, I hope you enjoyed your Dunkin' Donuts if you got there. I appreciate you putting up with us. It was a long but prosperous night for us and I think for the district. We're going to move right into committee reports. Mr. Scalera. Administration, please. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. The Administrative Committee met June 16th. We had an athletic update from Mr. Pyro. We're working on policies and standard operating procedures for the booster clubs, which the board will be addressing over the summer and hopefully be on the agenda in the fall. This is a posting, but Mr. Pyro did create a community service day with some of the athletes to also help prepare the Oval for graduation. And the athletic department has posted all of their positions for 2014-15 up to the website, and Mr. Pyro reviewed with the committee the evaluation process used on all of the current personnel under him in the athletic department. We discussed the commencement, which is now passed. The committee reviewed the current status of the continuing negotiations with the custodial unit. We also reviewed the facilities, the bleachers. The committee reviewed decision to prepare the Oval for graduation and prepare to repair the bleachers for the upcoming school year. Lincoln School and Radcliffe School, the mixture of bidding the work for both Lincoln School and Radcliffe School blacktops will be completed during the summer. And that will also be done in conjunction with some of the work with Department of Public Works. And the grounds, the committee discussed the general state of the department and brainstorm recommendations and improvements for 2014 and 15. We also reviewed the personnel agenda that's on tonight. We reviewed the staff. We reviewed some of the policies that are also on the agenda tonight. And we also we discussed some possible dates for the summer retreat for the board. We now have a date out with pending approval for that summer retreat. And that's the entire committee report. Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you, Mr. Scalera. Ms. Nanchuk. Academic?
No.
Mr. Carcello or Mr. Go ahead.
The Finance Committee met on June 24th. Mr. Levine, Mr. Beemeister outlined year-end technology purchases that are presented in the agenda today and provided an update on current technology inventory. We also had Chartwells and Pontoni Food Service Management Companies presented an overview of their proposal for 2014 and 15. To answer questions from the committee's recommendation will be on this agenda as well. Mrs. Yemens provided the committee with additional information on the portal and plan options that will be rolled out in the next open enrollment period. Mrs. Yemens reviewed the finance agenda resolutions for tonight, including building use requests, professional service appointments, donations, annual contract renewals. The committee discussed some possible options for moving the bus lot as well as the purchase of 2 replacement buses that was included in the 2014-15 budget as the vehicles will reach their maximum service life as permitted by the state. The committee reviewed the following upcoming capital improvement projects: Radcliffe parking lot, Lincoln outdoor play area, bleacher repairs, tree removal, and refurbishments of wood plaster floors at Lincoln School. Mr. Ferrero and Mrs. Yemens will be scheduling a meeting with town and district representatives to review paper projects. Mrs. Yemens updated the committee on the results of the town's bid for waste removal. Since the sole bid received by the town exceeded the town's budget, they elected to reject the bid. A new bid was advertised on June 27th. The Board of Education was listed as an alternate, which then gives the board the opportunity to issue its own bid as well. In the meantime, Mrs. Yemens has contacted the district's current removal contractor and negotiated a month-to-month lease at the same rates the board paid in 2014. We reviewed the status of the following capital projects. Again, mobile bleachers, Radcliffe and Lincoln parking lots, a high school roof, fire doors, and Lincoln Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Carcello. Any other committee reports? We now come to the portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions or comments on only the resolutions addressed in tonight's agenda. Our board regulation 601 allows 20 minutes for these communications. Each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than once, only after all those wishing to speak on a topic have been heard. All statements will be directed to me as the chairperson. No one may address board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please remember to always state your name and address each and every time you address the board. The first person wishing to approach the board can come up.
Terry Clark, 45 Hampton Place, spokesperson for the Nutley County Advocacy Network. On page, under approval of service providers, page 12, I just have some questions. Jessica Terrace, exactly who is she? What does she do for them?
The PA system is atrocious. I can't
Okay,
hear what you're saying.
Jessica Terrace Skiewicz? Yes, and she is.
She provides some specialized speech services.
And Kay Otaka, is speech too?
I believe
Yeah,
so.
I think so. Yes, speech too. Okay. And the neuropsychological evaluation consultation, is that under the Nutley Child Developmental Therapy Associates, or is that separate?
It's listed separately.
Okay, so that's a different company? Okay. And under this one, Silvergate, exactly,
I believe that's home instruction.
Home instruction. okay. And White Deer Run Incorporated?
That too is home
Home
instruction.
instruction. Okay,
Bedside instruction.
thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Mrs. Vancheck, will you take the academic resolution, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move academic resolutions 1 through 6 as written. Second.
Discussion? I have some discussion. Karen, maybe you can just help us a little bit. There's some questions here under the scholarships given to students. These $100 scholarships, were they, I don't remember seeing them at different, were they from specific people or were they from groups or we don't know?
All of these scholarships actually came from Nutley High School scholarship accounts, not from outside scholarships.
Okay, so they're,
This is the money that the district oversees. The high school has several scholarship accounts, and they distribute these funds to the students. So our auditors last year asked that the Board of Education memorialize the distribution of those scholarships. So that's the purpose of this resolution, since they are board held funds.
some of them, not all of them, right? I mean, the $100 ones I would assume, or maybe the Key Club, Spanish, but not Louis Brooke Gasparetti scholarships.
We had asked the guidance department specifically to give us a list of all the scholarships for funds that are held at the high school. So I assume that they oversee that. They probably have a CD for that scholarship, and so they decide who gets the scholarship funds. And those CDs are under the name of Nutley High School, so therefore they are under the auspices of the Board of Education.
Understand, Mr. Solari?
So, James, then I really have a bigger question then. So let's just, I don't care if it's 100 or it's a 400 or there's 10,000. So if it's still from there, how did these students apply for it to get money from the account? So they all should have said, one was human relations, one was this club, one was that club. Who picks and how do these students apply to get this money?
Mrs. Jennings, we know that answer.
Well, I'd like to tell you what the agenda, do we get an answer for that then? I mean,
They've already given, they've been awarded.
well, then I think they need to be on our agenda prior to award next time, because I still have an issue of who, how.
Let's see if we can get the answer.
What?
This was just a recommendation from the order. This is exactly what they've done for the past however many years. It's all run through the guidance department. Every one of these has a different,
So,
you know.
so Mr. Lesnick, I agree the auditor wants it on the agenda for us to approve it, but now that it's on the agenda for us to approve it, I think we should have all the answers to approve it properly.
We could then, moving forward, have the guidance department provide all the information, but that also was made public when the scholarships were made public. Unless-
Well, we gave out, who reported how many millions of dollars we gave out?
Understood.
And I've been there for the Unico ones, the Rotary ones, I see all those happen, and you know how to apply for them. How do I know who applied and who's the committee that selected
We
this? I think,
will get those answers.
so if we can get further
If I can
information.
get the answers.
And you, if you allow me, Mr. President, you can also vote yes pursuant to backup information and request.
Yeah, I'll do that, that's fine. Thanks, Ken.
Just don't abstain. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Conoscella?
Yes.
Mrs. James Morton? Yes. Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Ms. Russo? Yes. Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes, but I'd like to see the answers in our next board packet for the next meeting.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. Mr. Scalera, will you take administration?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. I'd like to move administration resolutions 1 through 4.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Conicella?
Yes.
Mrs. Stejcek Martin? Yes. Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mrs. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. Mr. Riley, will you take finance resolutions, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move finance resolutions 1 through 34 as requested, except for number 29, which I want to amend paragraph 5, where it says, be it further resolved that the Food Service Management Company guarantees the LEA from the food service program for the year will be $15,000. That's supposed to read $150,000, which is our guarantee. Food service companies, so I would like to make that amendment to number 29 and move them now 1 through 34.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Kaczynski, finance resolutions. It's a question why it's not here. We approved the radio communications the last meeting, and I asked that for this meeting, our amendment for the communications of $4,000, I was told it couldn't be on the last resolution, it was supposed to be on this agenda tonight, and it's not.
Number 22.
Okay, I could be wrong. I apologize, it's there, Mr. Kaczynski. I do apologize.
It's okay, Fred. No problem.
I'm willing to accept that I'm wrong.
Is that the tape recorder's running? We have that? There's no more.
Say what I'm wrong.
Thank you. Any more discussion? I have some discussion. On number 15, Karen, Mrs. Jones, the question was asked, what is the breaking point that we're allowed to go out for professional services without going on tape? Is there a price?
No, professional services are very different than a bid. When you are awarding professional services, you don't have to worry about the price, because you are looking at the qualifications of the individual and the services that they're going to provide.
Okay,
So it's not a bid.
Does that help you?
We know it's not a bid, but there's a ceiling as to what we can just renew without, I believe, an RFP.
No, there's not.
Not
Right, did we pass a resolution for that? We did that a couple of years ago.
Yes, we
And we
did.
did put an amount in there, I forget what it is, well, it's off my head, but we did. Yes.
Okay. One other question I have, not a question, but more of a statement. Under number 29, I applaud the committee for the work they did on picking the food service company, but I do want to make it a matter of record that the food service company will be coming back before the entire board sometime in September, probably at our first September meeting, to make a presentation that your committee heard, but we want to make that before the board and have some civilian input. Correct? Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Who seconded that?
Debbie Russo. Mrs. Russo.
All right.
The only other question I would have is, they used to be our food service provider. We changed food service providers. So, you want a question, right, Karen?
Chartwell's has been our food service provider for the past 5 years.
And before that was Pontoni, right?
They were here for a short period of
What
time.
did Chartwell's guarantee us last year?
15,000. We're currently running at a profit of, through the end of May, it looked like it would be at least 70,000.
Okay, so what's the only thing that could change this guarantee?
This guarantee is for 1 year.
And what are the provisions within this that could alter that number at the end of the day?
That number could be altered if we decide to go with recyclable food trays. then the number goes to 125,000. And if any of the other conditions that are listed here are not met.
Or if we choose a more expensive menu?
Yes, if you're going to alter the food price, the prices, and what you want served.
And
Those are all decisions that will have to be made by the board and pass a resolution to make any of those changes.
any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnasella?
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. Ms. Russo, will you take resolution personnel, please?
I'd like to move the personnel resolution number 1 with a correction on page 8 of the personnel agenda report where it says Alan Capetta, it should be Alphonse Capetta. I would also like to move the addendum to the personnel agenda report, shall we say number 1, as listed by someone.
Discussion? I'm sorry. Second. Second, and the discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnasella?
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. At this time, I would certainly like to welcome our new Director of Special Services, Ms. Nicole Hyde, I believe. Welcome aboard. We're looking forward to you becoming a part of our community. Thank you. Now we're going to do some testimonial. Mr. Riley, will you start with the testimonial for City DeBonis?
I would thank you, Mr. President. Whereas Ms. Cynthia DeBonis has tendered her resignation as Coordinator of English effective July 1, 2014, and has signified her intention of retiring from active service. And whereas Ms. DeBonis has served as a teacher and Coordinator of English in Nutley Public Schools for a period of 41 years, and whereas through the years Ms. DeBonis has exemplified the finest qualities of her profession at all times. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education expresses to Ms. DeBonis its deep appreciation for her long and faithful service and extends to her its best wishes for continued health and happiness. And be it further resolved that this resolution be made part of the minutes of this meeting. I so move.
Second.
We're going to take a roll call after we've done with all the testimonials, okay?
No, we only did
We did question 1.
one and
We
the
just
amendment.
did one in the amendment. Mr. Scalera.
Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. Whereas the following teachers have tendered their resignation, have signified their intention of retiring from active service, and whereas through the years they exemplified the finest qualities of their profession at all times, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education expresses its deep appreciation of their long and faithful service and extends its best wishes for continued health and happiness, and it further be resolved that this resolution be part of the minutes of this meeting. The following teachers: Joseph Bertuzzi, 31 years. Linda Fisher, 33 years. Nancy Foglia, 26 years. Margaret Fusello, 25 years. Donna Hutchison, 29 years. Richard Coble, 31 years. Anne Marie Kowalski, 31 years. Laura Ann McMillan, 19 and a half years. Rebecca Olivo, 25 years. Stephen Parigi, 41 years. Sally Ann Ryder, 41 years. John Schwartz, 41 years. Dean Stefanski, 19 years. Michelle Syme, 21 years. Nancy Zura, 37 years. Joseph Tagliarini, 22 years. Patricia Trainer, 24 years. Joyce Wood, 33 and a half years. Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you, Mr. Scalera. Whereas Mrs. Catherine Mulligan has tendered her resignation as Administrative Assistant to the Superintendent effective July 1st, 2014, and has signified her intention of retiring from active service, And whereas Mrs. Mulligan has worked as administrative assistant to the superintendent in the Nutley Public School District for a period of 30 years, and whereas through the years, Mrs. Mulligan has exemplified the finest qualities of her profession at all times. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education express to Mrs. Mulligan a deep appreciation of her long and faithful service and extend to her best wishes for continued health and happiness, and be it further resolved that this resolution be made a part of the minutes of this meeting. I so move. Mrs. Russo?
Whereas Mrs. Linda Orr has tendered her resignation as high school secretary effective January 1st, 2014, and has signified her intention of retiring from active service. And whereas Mrs. Orr has worked in the Nutley Public Schools for a period of 17 years, and whereas through the years Mrs. Orr has exemplified the finest qualities of the secretarial profession at all times, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education expresses to Mrs. Orr its deep appreciation for her long and faithful service and extends to her its best wishes for continued health and happiness. And be it further resolved that this resolution be made a part of the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrero?
Whereas the following paraprofessionals have tendered their resignations and have signified their intention of retiring from active service, and whereas through the years they have exemplified the finest qualities as paraprofessionals at all times, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education expresses its deep appreciation for their long and faithful service and extends its best wishes for continued health and happiness, and be it further resolved that this resolution be made a part of the minutes of this meeting. Margaret D'Angelo, 16 years. Jacqueline Vassanella, 11 years.
Thank you. Mr. Carnicello?
Whereas the following bus driver and bus aides have tendered their resignation and have signified their intention of retiring from active service, and whereas through the years they have exemplified the finest qualities as bus driver and bus aides at all times, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education expresses its deep appreciation for their long and faithful service and extends its best wishes for continued health and happiness, and be it further resolved that this resolution be made part of the minutes of this meeting. Carol Diorso, bus aide, 13 years. Ernestine B.C., bus driver, 28 years.
Thank you. Mr. Tanchik?
Whereas Mr. Richard Beecher and Mr. Michael Robinson have tendered their resignation as custodian and have signified their intention of retiring from active service, and whereas through the years Mr. Beecher and Mr. Robinson have exemplified the finest qualities as custodians of all times, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education expresses to Mr. Beecher and Mr. Robinson its deep appreciation for their long and faithful service and extends to them best wishes for continued health and happiness, and be it further resolved that this resolution be part of the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you. Now I'll take a second on the testimonials.
Second.
Any discussion? Sure.
I'd just like to say that, in the years that I've been sitting at this table, I've never seen a list quite like this, as impressive a loss as we're about to experience. I wish all of these fine professionals a successful retirement and healthy retirement, but I'm going to miss them all.
Yes, as some of my board members allude to, I was here when Abe Lincoln was with us, but I hired some of these teachers. I hired some of the professionals that are with us when I was on my board, my first life. And I'm certainly going to miss them. I'm going to miss the confidentiality that we had in the superintendent's office with Kathy Mulligan. I'm sure that will continue, but I know the hours and dedication that she puts in. I know what Cindy Bonus has done for us, Joe Tagg, John Bertuzzi, we go on and on. These are very, very dedicated people that we're going to miss, and hopefully in just 41 years from now, our new Director of Special Services, and they'll be on any time. But I'll be here. I'll be here to read your resolution. Roll call.
Mr. Carnicello?
Yes.
Mrs. Stanchek Morton?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
I said yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. In this section, we allow questions or comments on all school-related matters. Our regulations allow 30 minutes for these communications. Again, each person should be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. As I stated earlier, all statements will be directed to me. We will accept the first person who would like to have something to say on any school-related item.
Hi, Lisa Roser, 81 Hillside Avenue. I'm following up on the middle school curriculum changes, the loss of the second elective, which has affected the music program. And I'm following up to find out, has there been any progress toward a 0 period or a 9th period for those students that would not be able to be a part of the music program in middle school?
Yeah, they made the decision that we could support a 0 period in our schedule. Counselors are reaching out directly to the parents of students to make sure that the parents understood what was involved in that and that they were, whether or not they were accepting a 0 period for a second alternative. But that is being offered.
Okay, because I haven't heard anything about it. Like, how would,
They contacted people that again had a music to music conflict.
I'm sorry?
If there was an instrumental and vocal conflict in order to use that meeting to address the music to music conflicts. So if you would select art and music as your secondary, and we schedule into art first, the 0 period was not offered because we cannot sustain that period forever.
Okay, so if a student picked, like, my son picked computers and his second was the
Then
music.
they would receive computers, and if it's something that we can continue the lesson cycle, then we would look to do that. But that's going to happen once they finish scheduling everything.
Okay, but would he be able,
Take the 0 period then.
okay, because it's not a music to music conflict?
Exactly.
Okay, so this doesn't even apply to him then, you're saying there is no alternative for him?
As Ms. Egan and Mr. Rowell were talking back at our meeting in the auditorium, we had to address the music to music complex. If we open it up beyond that, we'd have everyone taking their music course second, and we have 1 period of music, and that would be 0. Not to the issue, unfortunately. Again, as Ms. Egan said, we're still looking to tweak the schedule as we go through configuration. This is the first step in moving to new curriculum, and the rest don't want any students to suffer. As Mr. Riley said, working students into the lesson cycle is something that's a possibility. But we'll know more as we build the final masters. But the 0 period is being offered, and those students that did have a music to music conflict were contacted, and the parents had the opportunity to sign up for the class.
Okay, so in this situation, my son has no opportunity for music at all in middle school. Like, that's the situation.
Unfortunately, for choosing computers first, that is correct, as a resident.
And there's not any chance of, like, a club or anything?
We did talk about that with Mr. Ryan, so we're still working on the teachers. The 0 period and master schedule were the first piece, but we did talk about the possibility of clubs, but it would not be a full course.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
A club meets once or twice a week versus a class which meets every day.
Okay. All right, well, I just want to express my disappointment in that because it's just, to me, I know you had said in the past, the thing you brought up is that the things that really make a school outstanding are, the opportunity for music and a language. And so now, the language has been mandated, but it's pushed in our situation, I don't know how many other people it is, but it has pushed out the opportunity for music, which are the two things that you say, so it's really not giving all of the students the opportunity to have access to the music program.
And again, we're trying to do as much as we can. At this point, we're talking less than 20 students in the music, with the music issue, versus over 300 students that are now taking all that. A decision that the board made for that reason, but we're still doing what we can to try and keep the exposure to the middle grades. We don't want to lose the problem.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Terry Clark, 45 Hampton Place, spokesperson for the Nutley County Advocacy Network. First of all, I'd like to welcome, congratulations for Mrs. Hyde. Welcome, Ms. Hyde. I'm kind of glad that she's here because something's come up and I wanted to share it with the board, and only because I think this may affect other children. And I know that this is just not something that is just one case. I am helping a parent or actually two parents, with their child, representing them for special services. And one of the things that I always do is I review the paperwork. I mean, because I don't know the children myself, and I have to really review the paperwork. So I'm a little confused with this particular situation, and I'm hoping that situations like this can be rectified. But this is what I received from the parent. She gave me a IEP that was done 6/20, June 20th, 2013. And in this IEP, it states that the child will have resource room for 60 minutes a day and 2 sessions of occupational therapy, one individual and one in a small group for 30 minutes. The parent remembers this meeting, attended this meeting, signed for this meeting. In fact, both parents were at this meeting. She remembers this meeting, and it wasn't a problem. However, this was supposed to be in effect from 6/20/2013 to 6/20/2014. Okay. However, in October, and that's a month and a half into the school year, this school year, she received another IEP, which is completely different than this one. It seems it's a different case manager, and that happens, that's not a problem. However, this one is very different than this one. And this one, this document, the second document, has no, the OT services are now down to a consult, and he is only going into the resource room for 40 minutes. Now, when I first approached her, she had only used this IEP, and I said to her, and there's also no goals in this particular IEP, but when she found out about this IEP, we were able to look at them, and this is really very unusual that we would have.
I just have one question.
Have you
taken it to the superintendent?
No, because what I really I'm nervous that this might be something that other kids may have had. This is also the second case that I know of, and I hope that Ms. Hyde is going to be able to address. This now becomes a fraudulent document, and which is really, I wonder about this, and I wonder about exactly what's happened. It looks like it's been cut and pasted, and we did ask for the original, and they said that there was no original, that this was something that they had copied from. The point that I'm trying to make, Mr. President, is that when we do things like this particular child went through the entire year with, I don't know if he had OT services or not. The mother was asked to sign an addendum. She refused to sign it. It became like a war between them. Now the child study team is wanting to make amends, I guess, and they want to do an entire independent evaluation. And we're willing to go down that road. We did have a meeting, and we did address it. The attorney was there, which was kind of new because the attorney wasn't in the last 4 IEP meetings for the last 4 years, but this particular one, it was a little disturbing to see that, although it went well, the meeting. My point that I'm trying to make is that, you know, we are really in a position where we want to trust people. We want to be able to trust them, and especially when they're given, these are signed documents that can hold up in court. And we really have to be able to trust these people. Now, the parents have no trust. And we have a new child study team case manager, and she's inherited this as well. So now she's trying to get evaluations. She wants to get an evaluation by a particular neurologist that the child study team uses. We're not going with that particular neurologist because we've had problems with that neurologist in the past. We really feel that that particular neurologist just takes the diagnosis that the child study team gives instead of actually diagnosing the child on their own. And so we're refusing that statement, and that particular individual, and we're asking for another one. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm glad that Ms. Hyde is here, because unfortunately she's going to hit the ground running with this particular situation and others. But I just hope that this is a new day, that we're able to work collaboratively, and I don't have to come to the microphone and torment you, Mr. President, and I know, but it's just, I just think that I know, but it's
You know
just,
you don't torment us. You
right, but
know
I'm
that
hoping that we're gonna be able to work on this.
And so do I.
Okay.
And you know that we care about our children, and I respect you, and you and I talk. What you do is above and beyond, and I appreciate that you do it. We too have been looking for a director to direct us, for lack of a better term, okay? So we're excited also, but let's just hope we don't have to deal with this too much.
Right.
Let's hope we can fix it. But in the meantime, if that is a real concern, make sure you talk to the superintendent tomorrow and try to fix some of those issues until Mrs. Hyde is with us and moving forward. And we're looking forward to working, having a good relationship with all of the parents.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
Good evening, I'm Domenica Police, 81 Hawthorne. I have several things that I would like to address. First, I would like to say that we just completed our first year here in the Nutley School District. We bought our home last year. We were in Spring Garden, and my husband and I are both educators, and we could not have been happier with the educational experience that we received. So welcoming, the whole Spring Garden community. I'd like to commend the principal, Mrs. LaGuardia, who, despite the fact that she's only seen me a handful of times, knows exactly who I am and who my son is and always welcomes me. His teacher, Mrs. Rizzuto, who created a classroom environment that was warm, that was caring, that was organized, and that was happy, and I'd like to commend her as well. So for this, I'd like to thank you. I was happy to see Mrs. LaGuardia renewed this year on the personnel agenda, and I hope to keep her there for the next 7 years until both my kids are through. So that's number one. Second, this actually came up when we were talking about the lunch program. I'm wondering, has there been any discussion about computerizing payment for lunch? I've been writing, I just ordered 400 checks because I've never written so many checks in my life as I have, and I have a second child entering. Or another form of payment, an account, anything like that?
Mrs. Yang.
We do have a process where you can put money on an account.
In elementary schools you do? Okay, I'm not, where would I get more information about that? I wasn't
Leave
aware
your
of it.
email with Mrs. Kakuza, I'll
Okay.
get that information to you.
Okay, that would be great, thank you. And the third item I'd like to address is the continuing decrease in care of the extended day program. In the last 10 months, we, working parents, have, in September, we received notice that we had 3 less days of care, the professional development days, and then we just received notice that the first 2 days of school, there will be no care pre or after for professional development, which, of course, in the mornings, there is none. And the program was developed, it was designed, it was created to meet the needs of working parents, and each of these days taken away from us does exactly the opposite of this. And I really don't understand it. I've talked with a lot of parents at Spring Garden who are as dismayed as I am about this, particularly those first 2 days in a row of school. That would require us to drop off late, get to work late, leave early, 2 days in a row. No matter how family-friendly the work environment, this is a stretch for us. What we need as working parents, if this program is going to meet our needs, is continuous care. The quality I have been wonderfully happy with. But quantity is just as important in this case. We need care every day that school is in session. Every other district does this. We bought our house last year. I researched this. This was not an issue because this time last year, Nutley did the same. It was only the beginning. If there are issues with professional development, if there are issues with liability, whatever the case may be, there are solutions to these problems. I'm an educator. We have a program run by our own district, and these are things that, working with the superintendent, working with the director of the program, solutions were found that satisfied administration for the professional development, satisfied the liability issues, and yet continue to provide this continuous care for the parents. I ask that this be found, that for Nutley, that we return to the care that we had last year. I have the name of the gentleman who runs our program, if you would like ideas or about how to accomplish some of these issues. I really, most sincerely, for me and all the parents I've spoken with at Spring Garden, please bring back continuous care. That's what I ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've had that discussion, Superintendent and I had this afternoon. Mrs. Russo's been discussing it quite a while. We are trying to fix these small hiccup that we have right now.
I hope so. I was here earlier in the year with the same issue, and so you had said the same, and then we had 2 more days taken away, so I was afraid coming in to talk
Me
to you
too.
again. But
Well,
thank
we
you.
are aware of it, and we're trying to fix it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry Clark, 45 Hampton Place, spokesperson for the Nutley Parent Advocacy Network. Mr. President, I just wanted to point out, and I don't know if I did, but this particular document, the second one that was given in October, there's a question in regards to the signature. I know you had said that you wanted us to go to the superintendent. However, I believe that the superintendent is aware of this. We don't believe that this signature is hers. My question is, does this IEP still stand even though it was the IEP to replace this one? I'm a little confused. How are we going to know? But I need to know because this is.
Mrs. Workman, we've talked about this before, okay? You're not going to get that answer from this board. You're going to get that answer from him.
We have asked.
Then meet him tomorrow morning at
Okay.
8 o'clock and you'll get the answer. I don't have the answer for you, and we as a board member don't have it for you.
Okay.
He is the qualified person to give you that answer.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Old business, I'm sorry.
Hi, Joe Rockwood, 165 Hillside Avenue. I just have a question. I've been coming to all the board meetings and the whole thing about the language program. There's something that's like in the back of my head that nobody's really addressed as far as the mandatory taking a language for starting in the middle school. There's 3 languages that are offered: Latin, Spanish, and Italian, correct? In the high school, are those the only 3 languages that are also offered now? No, is there French also now? So I'm wondering why French is not offered in the middle school, if it's considered a mandatory track now for our middle school students.
There's no requirement that the language that you begin in middle school is the language that you continue with in high school. But the other piece is based on declining enrollment. French has been being pulled away. So we did not, when we made the investment in the middle school, look to reinfuse that language, if you will. It's a determination made as part of the program review based on enrollments and the languages that were being offered and what students were taking. I know Mr. Materia offered a survey to parents about what languages they wanted to see, which is also part of the
By the parents or the students?
both.
Because I'm just curious why you would have that, and then somebody who maybe took a year of Spanish maybe wants to take French wouldn't have the option to do 5 years of French and start, you know what I mean? Like if we're doing this, then it was logical to offer it and get the enthusiasm at the young age in middle school, because now it's a requirement.
So to be clear, it's always been a requirement, just we have not thought on that as a district. We need to start even earlier.
It's a state requirement?
We're supposed to be, kids are supposed to be exposed to a language going all the way down to elementary school.
And that's a state requirement, or that's exposure? Because there's a difference between exposing and then...
No, the requirement is
It's a requirement,
full language. That being said, as far as the question of French, knowing that we need to build the program down, middle school is the first step.
Right.
We're looking to build languages that do see its way all the way through. So if kids start Spanish early on and want to continue with it, that's one thing. Obviously, we'd love to offer as diverse an offering as possible with multiple languages, but like I said, in looking at what we were looking to offer, what kids are currently taking and what kids and parents tell us they want to take, French was not on the list, so we're phasing it out. We're maintaining the program for the students who are in the program, so that they don't lose the opportunity to finish what they started. But looking toward the future, it doesn't seem that French is on our.
So the only like 3 languages that are going to be offered in the future will be Latin, or is that being phased out as
It's
well?
not being phased out
Okay, Latin and then Spanish and Italian.
for now.
But we're trying to compare ourselves to other blue ribbon districts and become on par with them. And they offer Japanese, and they offer German, and they offer Mandarin, and they offer whatever, and we're offering 3 languages.
Which is why, if you look at the program review, we're looking to build the offerings, but that's why one of the things we're doing is phasing French out, because it does not look like French would be in the wealth of offerings that we're hoping to offer in the future.
Okay, I mean, it doesn't seem like you're starting this off fresh. I mean, I'm looking at, the parent of a child who's already in college and what their options were, and she actually took 2 languages when she was in high school. She took Latin and she took French. And then I'm looking at, my youngest who's going to be transitioning to middle school, and his desires are very different they're completely different people. So to phase something out based upon a group of people that were old, and then not knowing what the newer generation would be interested in, I think is kind of premature.
I think when Mr. Materia made his presentation, he did reflect on a survey that was done for current students.
High school students, not grade school students and grade school parents.
Yeah, I think we did middle and high, and the need was not there, or the want was not there.
Right, I'm just wondering because this is something that's for transitioning
Yeah,
in, not
I understand what you're
transitioning
saying.
out.
I understand.
So the survey should have been done for those that it would really be affecting, not those that didn't have the opportunity. I mean, for me, if I look at a district that offers German, that's probably much more appealing to me than having my child maybe take Italian. And maybe not, but we don't even offer that. When I went to high school, it was. German was offered. Other languages were offered. And it just seems like we're making this big deal about this, which it should be a big deal because, obviously America is so far behind other countries with languages, but to say that we're trying to be on par with other districts or compare ourselves to other districts and provide these opportunities and exposure because they are mandated, and then only limit our opportunities, to me, doesn't seem like it's the same argument. And I think that the parents and you may get the same results from, parents, but I think that the survey should have been done to the parents of incoming students, not outgoing students. So, and then also I have one other thing that I'd like to say. I come to these meetings all the time and I see so many empty chairs. And I know that other districts have done this, and I know that we do this for our snow chains and changes in schedule. We all get that phone call. Even my mother, who's in her 70s, gets the phone call from the superintendent saying whatever it is that is to be said on the phone, and then also I get texts, the same exact information. I'm wondering why the same technology is not utilized to remind people in town that there is a meeting. Because we have 10 people here.
I think it is. It's all over our website. The BOE dates are published a year in advance.
Yeah, I
It's out there
understand.
as much as it can be.
Yeah, but why isn't it used as a text or a phone call? Because the other districts are doing that. Morris County especially does that. And for people to drive past the middle school and then see it, or to go on the website, our busy lives, I get actually annoyed when I have to go take time out of my schedule to go check the website to see if there was like a game that was changed, or, it's so much easier to have access, the phone, or hear the phone and then go, and that's a reminder. With today's technology, we use it for snow closings or emergency closings or updates, so why wouldn't it be utilized for meetings where I don't even know what percentage?
It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Maybe we should probably look at it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Michael Odrea. I live at 133 High Street. Previously, before, your colleague to your right said something about the bids not having a cap on it, certain bids from, I guess, private vendors. Professional services. Thank you, Mr. Russell. The reason why I'm here is because I've never been to one of these before, and I've been going to the town hall meetings across the street on Tuesday night. And when you talk about these bids, not having caps or whatever, like because of professional services, those affect the homeowners of this town. For example, like my property taxes, that I pay, half of my property taxes go to pay for the schools in this town. And the previous town hall meeting I went to, Thomas Evans, town commissioner, finance, mentioned that all our property taxes over here in Nutley, all the homeowners, less than 8,000 homeowners, and that's who carries the burdens of this town, said that even though we had a budget surplus of $250,000, they're gonna raise all our property taxes an average of $219 each. Now that $219, $93 of that is from the Nutley Public Schools. What I'm trying to get at, when I hear this talk about bids and, there's no cap or something like that, like you mentioned before, you're affecting us homeowners. And to be honest with you, we're really property taxed out. We got like 130 homes, from what I understand right now, where the homes are for sale and the people are moving out of this town because they can't afford the property taxes. And yes, I have been going to town hall meetings and doing my best for them to control the budget. And Thomas Evans said to me months ago, like 3 or 4 months ago, he says, if you want a property tax cut, come here. So now I'm here. So what I'm trying to say is, you guys have to really control the budget. Because me personally, and I've talked to many parents here in our town, pre-2006, I was paying $3,000 a year in property tax. That's just pre-2006. Now I'm paying $11,351. That's a 276.3% increase in our property taxes. And half of that is because I'm assuming, I'm not perfect, but it could be because of this room. And you find people are doing. You must control what you're doing. We can't afford it anymore. There are people moving out of this town. Businesses are closing and starting up and then closing. I mean, control it. Because people are watching now what's going on here. Like we've been watching over there what's going across the street and how they're spending our money, and all these different town city employees are getting 2% automatic wage increases that Mayor Petrocco told us about. We're watching now. So, because I worked 16 years to pay off my house. I haven't paid it off, but I should not be property taxed out of this town. You know what I mean? So, control what you're doing, because the people are watching now. That's all I'm saying. Well, actually, I could say a lot more, but I don't want to take up all the time because maybe more people want to talk. But just to let you know, we're all here and we're watching. So please do your best. Even control the wages, because we know what the wages are in this room.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Old business? Under old business, I would just like to thank the board members for the donuts and bagels and little donations that we made to the teachers. I think it was the least we could do for the great job that our teachers and staff do for us, and I appreciate all the help that we received that day and everyone's input. Any new business? Whereas the Board of Education will be discussing that. I'm sorry?
Let's just take the breath there for a moment.
Okay. You gotta be fast. You gotta be fast.
Very quick. I don't know if the superintendent can elaborate for us on this new assembly bill. I believe it's 5081, if you remember that, Freddie, that has to do with tenure and creating a new committee to evaluate teacher evaluations, Common Core, and what else? I'm missing something.
You want general? Sorry.
I know that the Bloomfield Board of Education last week adopted that bill.
Generally speaking, and to avoid any confusion again, 3 different things: Common Core, PARC, and teacher evaluation.
PARC, yeah, that's correct.
Common Core is a set of standards, core curriculum content standards that we've had for a long time. Common Core is an update to a process that New Jersey is one of the front runners on as far as establishing standards for all the learning that goes on in K-12. And Common Core is something that, again, it's separate. It's a statement of what kids should know to be able to do a certain grade level. We've adopted that. We've aligned our curriculum to those things, partly because of the CUSAC findings. but also partly because we believe that they're good, they're rigorous, they're what kids should know and be able to do, and it's something to reach for the team. PARC is a set of assessments developed by one specific company that is supposedly able to better assess the learning that's outlined in the Common Core. So they're two separate things. You can be teaching to the Common Core and not PARC. We teach the Common Core, we don't really teach to PARC, although we participated in the sample test, the dry runs, if you will, to make sure our technology is up to snuff. Beyond that, Achieve NJ, which was a different set of legislation, talked about not really implementing the Common Core and not necessarily using PARC per se, but because we are teaching to the Common Core and using PARC as our new statewide assessment, that those assessment scores will be included in teacher evaluation in the form of the MSGP that we presented on a bit ago. My understanding is that the bill is looking to slow down the use of the MSGP score, so not stop the implementation of PARC and not prevent districts from teaching to Common Core, but to slow down for, I believe, 2 years at this point, the use of that MSGP score. Now, my understanding by the bill is that they're still going to generate the SGPs for students and therefore the MSGPs for teachers, but that those scores would not be used as part of evaluation. Our process, built, state approved, and the rest, we have those combinations. If that happens, we're already prepared to redo our calculations without. We have to submit to the state all of our evaluation information, which I presented on the last meeting. If they choose to stop the MSGP, we'll still take the information. We think the information is helpful, but it would not be then used as part of teacher evaluation. That's really up to the state. Our focus has always been, as I said before, that growth, learning, and accountability in that order. And for us, that means professional practice, what we're actually in control of. We're using a framework, and we were using the framework before the state mandated it. It just so happens the state allowed us to keep the framework we were using. Our process of connected evaluation is different from most districts and does not focus on the state test scores. We use student performance data as a means of looking at the impact of our practice, but we still believe that our practice should be the focus. So if the state decides to slow that down, no issue for us. It's one less number that we have to submit.
Ms. Lazar, I believe there's a bill to delay using the PARC assessment because of computers in the district. So there's also another bill.
That I believe is part of that bill is to form a committee, in which case they will assess the ability of districts to implement the PARC effectively, at which time I think the committee is supposed to then make a recommendation from the bill, and based on that recommendation, then they can take whatever steps they need. I'll let you know again, most importantly, I mean, Mr. Viermester's here, Mr. Levine is on vacation, which is good, it's the first one in a long time. I quintupled the amount of devices in district. That was really for instructional practice. Does it get us PARC ready? Yes. We're far away thanks to their work, the work of our technicians and our teachers for just the PARC trials. We are fully ready to implement if necessary. But again, here's the good news. If they decide to not go with the PARC and use something else, then we have all these devices here for what's, sorry?
So we're all set.
Exactly. We are ready to go, and teachers can keep using those devices in class.
But that also affects the other bill because if part of the PARC changes, then that other bill changes too, Ken. That's why I was trying to bring it up.
I don't know that there was some discussion on that, and ETS, I don't know, there was some, it's hard to believe what's right, what's accurate, but we are mandated because of our, even with the opt-out we have for NCLB, we still have to have a state assessment. So if we choose not to use the PARC, my understanding is that we would be back using the ASCs and the HESPA, which HESPA is not fully done anyway. If that happens, just so we're clear, Barry Erickson still has the ability to create an SGP and an MSGP. So while they may delay the PARC and not change teacher evaluation, if they delay the PARC, we're back to using the ASC, in which case they can still use, they can still create SGP for every student and therefore MSGP for every teacher. So they are related bills, but one's not necessarily, if they slow one down, if we keep moving forward with the PARC, so be it. If they slow down the implementation of PARC, we're still teaching the Common Core, and we may still be using some kind of MSGP in the evaluation. But the good news is, as a district with our GAC, Mr. Klein sits on that committee, and we'll report out on that. But based on our process, if the state makes any changes, there's a limited impact to our teachers. It's more about paperwork for us.
Any other new business? Whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10-4-4. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss student matters. Being further resolved that the results of the discussion will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of a subsequent meeting of the Board of Education. For when the reason for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exists. I need a second.
Second.
Roll call.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.